So it's great to be together this morning with Dr. Milton Zimmerman and with my mother, Dr. Monika Mommsen. And first of all, how long have both of you practiced medicine?
Oh, well, I was at it for 60 years before I retired a few years ago.
And how many years of that was within the Bruderhof communities?
Oh, 58.
And I've been practicing over 41 years, all within the community.
And as a result of your different experiences, is there things that you would say that you've changed in the way you've approached medicine over the years?
Well, I think I've changed quite a bit. I think taking more time with my patients, which I can do now because I'm not so pressed, and my colleagues allow me more time. I just find that just hearing more about a person's life and what they're experiencing and what they're doing, and then whatever time is needed to take care of the medical problem often encourages a person much more than just basically listening to heart and lungs and deciding what drugs to give. And having more compassion, especially with people who have mental illness and who suffer from that, but also more compassion with people who are approaching end of life. And not so quick to judge them. Believe in the patient. Believe in what he's saying and what he's asking about, even though there may be it's not a medical need.
Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to practice medicine in an environment where money actually doesn't play a role in the decision making about how you're going to treat your patients?
Well, back when I first started practicing medicine, I had my own little private practice, family practice in eastern Pennsylvania, just outside the suburbs of Philadelphia, semi-rural area. Back then, I charged $3.50 for an office visit and $5 for a house call. Can you imagine? I can't anymore, hardly. But I was able to pay off my debts within 1 year. Now, it was a modest office, but it was good enough and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the patients, and I think the patients mostly enjoyed the contact with me. Mostly, at least, I had enough to enjoy. But you can't get around it. The monetary transaction between doctor and patient is always there in the background. And I remember a couple of times that I charged a little bit too much, and other times when I probably didn't charge enough. Though that didn't happen very often, I have to admit. But the monetary fiscal relationship was unavoidable. Here, it's not there at all. That's what allows the full trust relationship between the doctor and patient here.
I think it really frees us to care for somebody. Also, if you're not having see, we get no pay, so whatever I do or don't do doesn't reflect on my income. And conventionally now, doctors have to see 20, 25 patients in a day, every 10 to 15 minutes, and there's just no time that they can actually take to listen, to do a physical exam, to come up with a plan or diagnosis. And here we have that time, and we're not driven by economics. I also do some care in our neighborhood for people who don't have money, and I always do it free. And I have such joy in doing that, and it also it makes it actually easier to care for someone if there isn't a reward system for whatever I do, I think.
Do you make house calls?
Absolutely. I love it. I mean, I often do it when a mother's home with a new baby. I just visit them at home and see how they're doing. You get a entirely different impression of the mother and the baby and your time, and you have a cup of tea together and you can talk about how they're feeding. It's much less formal. I often also go to a home if a mother has a sick child on the weekend, so they don't have to come down to the office, although for me the office is a lot more convenient because you have everything available. But I think it shows care, that you care to come to someone's home. And certainly when a person gets older, I have to older women now with cancer. And I basically do not see them in the office at all. I stop that and then just do home visits, usually with their spouse or their daughter or a caregiver. And we sit together and have a cup of coffee. They tell me what they're doing.
You also learn a lot by by being in a patient's home. You can tell what's going on. And if there's any question about the diagnosis of some problem, you get the full picture if you visit them at home to see how the family interacts with the patient and the children or the spouse or the neighbors, how messy the house is, or if it's too scrupulously clean. You learn much more about the patient to see the home.
What advice would you give to medical students preparing to enter the field of medicine today?
Well, to be humble, learn all you can, listen, learn from the patients. Even in medical school, I was told in second year, spend as much time as you can on the ward with patients. Don't just get wrapped up in books alone. Even that was clear to the very humanistic, rationalistic medical school years ago. That's still the case. It's almost been forgotten, perhaps, in some places. But again, to learn the practice of medicine in the concept of faith and belief in Jesus, that opens up more doors and more possibilities than trying to do it without faith. So have faith, pray, study the Bible as well as your textbooks, and don't let technology become a barrier between you and the patient.
I think humility is huge. I think as when you all get out of medical school, we're young and full of energy. And I think there's also a lot of arrogance. There's been a lot of arrogance pumped into us, especially if we've done well academically. And that all has to be shed. And then often that's a bumpy road until one has gone through hard times. Humility and compassion. And to see it as an enormous privilege. You know, to accompany somebody, to listen to somebody's needs is a privilege, and you are allowed to be part of their lives, often in the most vulnerable stage, by the birth or death or mental illness or whatever it is. Patients are very vulnerable, and they allow you to enter into their lives in a way that very few people have, except maybe a pastor. And it's, you know, the longer I've done it, the more I've loved it, and because of this, you get close in a way that you don't get close otherwise. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm very, very lucky to be able to have practiced all these years in a community that supports me in that, and also helps me when I need also help in deciding what to do.
The big joy in medicine is the possibility, like Monika just described, of being in a position to be able to offer help to a brother in need, whatever it is. And we experience that again and again in a person who's dying. To be able to accompany a brother or a sister in their last steps in this life right up to the very end is a terrific privilege. And to experience that prayerfully is an enormous boon to the patient and to the doctor and to me too. It enlarges my life, my love for Jesus.